Hello, friends, and welcome to the Beans World Show, which there really isn't a lot of sustenance in this episode because, unfortunately, the episode that I was in the middle of never got finished because... So, Tom McInhill is coming over at some point and we're finishing the rest of that episode because it's just... so I'll be doing the first part of it, and so anyway, that's kind of what we're going to be doing. I've got Charles with me. Charles, imaginary Charles, would you like to say hello and welcome back to the podcast? I will say hello and welcome back to the podcast. In fact, it's great being back on the podcast. To be honest, because I've not spoken for a while, I don't think to any other viewers on the channel. You haven't? No. So tell the people on the channel what you've been up to, what you've been working on. Crumbs. Well, if you're going to be talking about Renault vans, which people would have said on Facebook, the Renault van is still being worked on. Yeah, it's one of those vehicles that needs a lot of work doing to it. To be honest, it's the steering wheel is absolutely fine. Yeah. The pin. The pin of the steering wheel. You put the... It's not the pin, it's the thing that goes in. So it's... I can steer it without. I can... you put a bit of rope in and you just put the thing in, you pull the van around. It's... It's not ideal. It's really not ideal. So it's just... little bits to go on. Yeah. And all the rest of it. Yeah. But it just needs a little bit of a tidy up because it's, you have to tidy these little bits and pieces up. Yeah. You can't have any, it's like anything. But the other issue I've got on it, is the one of the batteries, one of the leisure batteries I put in about a year ago, it must have been, the battery just corroded. It was a very cheap battery, and I forgot that I bought this battery. Well, I didn't forget that I bought it, I just didn't know how cheap it was, and it just corroded, so I've had to kind of get that all sorted. So it's, the van is getting there. It's had a lot of work done to it. The floor's done, the seating's down. I've got a few more seats to work on. I've got the AC unit to work on because it's one of those screwy-in... it's got strange screws on it. It doesn't just go in the way an AC unit would go in. And the vents, would you believe it? The vents are leaking. Oh dear. Yeah, they're leaking. The vents are leaking water into it. So I don't know how that's happened. So I need to check that out very quickly. How do you know it's leaking water? Because when I tested it, luckily it wasn't leaking anything dodgy. the way AC units leak, because we've had a few leak on us, and then it's not good when that happens. And by the way, this van will have heated seats in it. That means you can burn people's bums off. Oh yeah, and it's got a bed at the back, where the tailgate is. Basically the tailgate turns into a bed. It folds two ways, so if you fold it one way, it drops down onto the tailgate, so the door literally drops open. Or it goes the other way. If you drop it the other way, it goes into a bed. So the door won't open. No, the door will open, but it can drop two ways. You can fold it either way. You can fold it one way and it'll just be a tailgate, and you fold it the other way and it'll be a massive bed on the back. I'm not putting the lift on the back now because that's a arse of a job. So we've got a van that we're working on for a friend who, just outside Greybank Village, who is a wheelchair person, and he's waiting on a wheelchair vehicle. So we just said, well, we'll get a van in and we'll modify it. We've got a van in, and we're modifying it for a wheelchair user. Haven't you got to put the steering thing on? Well, you can. What you do is you send the van away for that. So we've got people who can do all that. Put the steering balls on, and yeah, it's not a difficult job to do, but we've adapted the whole entire van. There's going to be no driver's door on it. Oh my gosh, no driver's door. But if they need to get out, like an emergency door, there's one on the side. And it's like they can get in that way anyway if they want to, because it's literally like, you know how an ambulance, when you get into an ambulance, only there's a ramp that goes up on the side. So if they want to get in from the side, they just drop the ramp down and they get in from the side that way. But on the back, there's a lift, takes them up onto the back. Then they just go straight through on their chair. And is it going to be a camper or? For the moment, we're just leaving it as a wheelchair adapted vehicle. I don't know if they want it as a camper. If they want it as a camper, they'll have to bring it back in, because there's a lot more work that needs doing to it. But at the moment, it's just a wheelchair adapted vehicle. Has it got seats in the back? Yeah, it's got seats in the back. But the seats in the back, they drop down from, basically they drop down, so they are foldable seats. A bit like, when you're in a taxi cab. Yeah, they're them. And they're only they're facing backwards. Because you can't put them in forwards. You got to put them in backwards. So they're the same sort of seats that you'd have in like a TX4. And yeah. So it's basically a huge car. But it's yeah. I think this guy's going to have it as a camper, but I think he's going to take it somewhere else, he said. So yeah. Which, it's strange because there's a lot of wheelchair people doing van life at the moment, I've been reading. Yeah. Well, Charles, I hate to scare you, but self-driving cars, somebody in America said they were in a self-driving taxi. I think, though, a self-driving car, for me, would still have to have a switch on it. Because if a fully sighted was to get in that car and drive it. And another thing as well, I think you've still got to have your wits about you. You know, because if you think, hold on a second, someone's coming out here, I'm going to hit the brakes, you know, and all the rest of it. Yeah, and I think these cars, you know, if I was to have a self-driving car, it'd have to have a proper engine in it. There's no way I'd have an electric one. Hybrid model. Well, Tony's mate, he's got one of those bloody. He's got one of those cars that aren't allowed to go through the tunnel. The hydrogen. No, this isn't hydrogen. It's a different gas. It's on gasoline. Bloody hell. Yeah, but it's on, no, it's not. It's on, you know, the type of fuel that the monster trucks use? Yeah. Well, he's got one of these vehicles. It's like that. It's a different sort of gas, but it can't go through the tunnel. Oh my gosh. And it's a big car, but it's cheap on the tax as well. And this fuel is pretty, well, it's not fuel, it's a kind of a type of a gas that you put in. But I don't know how that works. You see, we were talking way before the podcast. Just kind of briefly on we were talking about like different things with cars, and I think they're making them so they go to the garage more. And oh yeah, I mean the amount of people we used to have, not in this garage that we're at now because it's a smaller garage, but the other garage where I was at, and the amount of people that came to me with an electric car, through, the garage before that. Remember that garage which we don't talk about? Yeah, that one. I had so many people coming to me with electric cars. Yeah, it was unreal. And I just sent them to Eastbourne Road. Yeah. To Eastbourne Road, because I said, I don't do electric cars. I don't. I've never worked on an electric car since. It's nuts and bolts all the way for me. Oh, excuse me. But obviously, the cars, Matt, before he died, bless him, he said to me, these electric cars, he said, you watch, he said, the government will have their eyes wide opened, to an electric car. So many people hate them though, and, well, the thing is, you can't just take the battery out. This is what I've described to the customer. I've opened the hood. Now, you're not, with some electric cars, they tell you off for opening the hood, because it's like breaking the seal. You know, there are some, and I'll say, look, I can't really pop the hood on. I said, look, that battery you have in there, that's irreplaceable. It's not like an engine or a bog standard car battery. It's not like a bog standard car battery. These are specialized batteries. And these batteries power the whole entire car. And there's some batteries that have motors in. And some cars now have motors in the wheel, in the wheels of the car. They've got all kinds of got this, that, and the other on. And I said, look, this fancy car you've got here is basically worthless. I said, because if it comes into a garage, I said, no mechanic, unless you take it to a big... I mean, a lot of cars, one times out of 100, people buy an electric car and they'll go, oh, right, it's from BMW. They'll take it to BMW. BMW will fix it. It's like Arnold Clark. They fix, Well, no, Arnold Clark won't, because they're a dealership. They won't fix the car. They'll take it to a workshop where they know they can get it fixed. But even then, if it's electric, as long as they know that they can deal with it, they'll then... Because there are some electric cars that we, as mechanics, are not allowed to open the hood at all. Really? Yeah. You're not allowed to open the hood because it's like breaking the seal. So is there a seal? No, it's like breaking the seal, if you know what I mean. Because as soon as you open the hood on that car, that's it, your warranty's gone. Straight away. Straight away. You might as well write that car off. And how do you know if you can't open the bonnet or not? There's usually a sticker on the bonnet. Well, it's not necessarily on the bonnet. There's a sticker somewhere in the electric car that says if you can or cannot open the hood. But still, it's all... And it's the pink cable. There's 3 cables in an electric car. 3 main cables. And I do know because I've taken where I take cars to be MOT'd. I know a guy who does the MOT for electric cars. But in my mind, they're literally doomed to fail. An electric car. Plus, where can you fill them up? You can't just fill them up. And well, Mitch he shot me because we went for a ride and he said I need to charge up here. Not because he'd forgot to charge. He liked to add a little bit on because he was going a fair bit of a way. And he said he sits outside a Mackey's, goes and gets a Mackey's, comes back to his car, and he said the 10 minutes that it takes to go and get a Mackey's, the amount of battery you have, and he said it's literally like filling 4 litres of fuel on a turbo pump. If you remember them turbo pumps, you put it in and it's like full. His car's sat on that charger and it's putting a little bit of juice on his battery. But soon they'll start charging people for that. And here's the thing. This is where, a lot of subscription services are coming into play. So you might have to subscribe to go on that charger. to charge your car. And the only thing you own now with a car now is a license. That's the only thing you know that says you can drive that car. Because Cliff's had it. Cliff's had it where he's had cars, Toyotas and Mercs, and he's had to crack the program for them. Oh gosh, so it bypasses the paywall. He doesn't tell me how he does it, but he said if you ever get a car where you need to, do something behind a paywall, he says I can unlock it, I can crack it. Oh my gosh. Well, Cliff used to be, he used to hotkey cars as a hobby. Oh my gosh, he used to hotwire them. That's how he got his job. He was, used to what's the word? He wasn't one of these people he wasn't in a gang or anything, but he was a bit of a, poor parents, and him and a group of mates, basically, I can't remember what the story was, but he went and hotwired this car. And he's in his 30s now, so it must have been when he was in his early 20s, something like that. Anyway, the story goes that he hotwired this car, and obviously he was caught. He's pulled over. He was given a bit of a slap on the wrist with his mates for joyriding this car. Next minute, he gets a phone call off the guy who, he said, if you can hotwire this car, he said, you can help me friend out because he was struggling to start his car up. Oh, gosh. And that's how Cliff basically got a job through doing that. He got a job because he was great at doing, what he could do, but he went on a course and, got all the rest of it. A bit like your story with when you went into the joiners, you sort of good with tools and... Yeah, I didn't want a job working in a factory. And I actually, my first job, I didn't say this in the Behind the Tales from the Vault series, but when I left school, there was a factory down the road from us, and it was because there were factories everywhere, and it made tumble dryers. And when I was 15, I went into this factory down the road because it was before I left for the joiners. And I remember it. It was down. It's now. The place is still. The building's still there. Actually, it's not a factory anymore. It's bloody hell. What is it? It's like a. It's a doctor's surgery now. Is it where the railway is, or no? Oh, but I've got a story about that as well. No, it's a doctor's surgery now. It's a really nice doctor's surgery, but it used to be this factory for making these tumble dryers. They used to make tumble dryers, and I went in the tumble dryer place, and there was a load of women working in there. And I could tell they didn't want me in there, kind of thing. And I went in, and you won't be able to do this now, but I took a tumble dryer to bits. Oh my gosh, one that they had in. And the woman went mad and blah, you know. And her friend said, I know him, yeah. See me in a couple of weeks and he's got a job. But they knew I wasn't playing truant because I went and got a job. All my mates at school at 15, a lot of them were playing truancy, a lot of them. And, you know, and there was one kid who, at 16, at 15, well, 15, he was 16. No, he was 14. Yeah. And he was riding a motorcycle at 14. Now, obviously, I was 15 years old, yeah, and I got hold of a motorcycle off a friend. And I hadn't done my test yet, but you could, as long as no one found out, you could ride a motorcycle. And I was riding my friend's motorcycle, and this lad, he was 14 years old, and he was riding a motorcycle, yeah. And I basically said to him, I said, if I see you riding this motorcycle, I'm taking you to the headmaster, right? Because I know. And so what I did was, they knew I'd left the school by this point. They knew I was, you know, and this lad, he was a bit of a, he went the wrong way in life, shall we say. I mean, he wasn't a bad kid, but he kind of was the unemployed. You could tell no one was going to have him. Nobody was going to take him on. He was a proper dunce. He was a proper bottom of the class. He really was. I mean, I was next to the bottom of the class, but I had me, you know, and anyway, and we were on motorcycles, and I thought, fine. I thought he'd learn his lesson. And the next time I saw him, he was on this little, it must have been like a 50cc engine. It was too powerful for him anyway. It was, you know, it's like a kid now on an e-bike, a real powerful, anyway, and he had no helmet on, and that added to my fury. This kid's riding a motorcycle with no helmet on. So I said, right, I says, we're going to the school gate. And I took him to the school gate, and I took him in, and I marched him to the headmaster, and the headmaster's like, we'll take it from here. Do you remember that other kid you said where you had to sort of tell him off? And oh yeah, I was 15 by that point. Again, I was 17. And I knew this other kid was lower than me, and I saw him on his motorcycle. And the headmaster pulled me up and he said, I want you to, next time you see him, I want you to march him into my office, and I want you to do the telling off. And then I said, so I basically said, listen, mate, I'm going to have to tell you off. I said, you're not to ride your motorcycle to school. Yeah. It's the rule. You can't, I know you're, 16 or whatever it was. I know you're doing your CBT, and I know you're going to be a good rider. I said, but the headmaster's going to tear a strip off you. Well, no, he was 15. So he rode the motorcycle to school, but, you know, I missed all that, you see. And where your school is, it's now a block of flats. Yeah, it was a church school. I remember when they closed it, funnily enough. It's actually, it's on Horton Street as you go up, where those flats are on Horton Street. And the headmaster moved in to them flats. Yeah, when it turned into the flats, he moved in. We was told anyway. I got friendly with him after I left school. But it wasn't the headmaster I had a problem with. Well, I did, but it was a teacher who I didn't like and the kids I didn't like. And my mate went to a school that's now that Arden College. That was a Sunday school, wasn't it? Yeah, well, my mate went there. That's where we went to do night school. There. So I learnt so much for being in the joiners. Yeah. You know, I learnt so much that you wouldn't never believe, because they taught you in the joiners. They taught you, you know, and I remember running up a set of ladders, bloody hell, you know, the joiners, and jumping onto roofs and, you know, all that kind of thing. I was never a Stan. Goodness grief. Jumping off the scaffold into a skip. No. I remember when you used to climb a wall without the ladders. If I could get my foothold somewhere, I could climb it. I couldn't do it now. You know, it catches up when you get older. You know, oh, crumbs, and you've not done something for a while. It catches up with you. Now I get dizzy when I'm going up on a set of ladders, but don't think about it. Don't think about falling. Well, you hit the ground and, well, it's strange because you'd work with fellas and it'd be like, oh, you know, it's fine. Yeah. I worked with one lad. They called him Dirty Harry, you know, as a nickname. They called all the lads nicknames. They called one lad Dick. You know, out of The Great Escape. They called him Dick because he was... he always had a great plan. And I mean, he always had a great plan. He was always the foreman. He was always well in with the foreman. And this was at the joiners. But we called this lad Dirty Harry because, oh my, by Joe, this lad he was not frightened of dirt. He was not frightened of dirt whatsoever. You know, this guy once mud wrestled with someone anyway. But he got the name Dirty Harry. But my word, he was fearless. I think he had a fear of something. We never found out what. I didn't know him long enough to find out. But he lived dangerously. You know, he was, I mean, we saw his house. I went to his house for a meal, you know, because he was one of these bachelors. I went to his house, and he had mates, had great friends, but he had his house was literally like a dump, and I mean it was like a proper dump. It was like a Stig of the Dump style. His house was, and it was clean, for strangely enough, but it was. We all made, we all joked, but he was the one that really collected cars, and he always drove sports cars. And then one day, we saw him in a big car. And he goes, what? This isn't mine, folks. This isn't mine. He's talking in a posh voice, And basically, his friend had he was a drunk driver. And they didn't let him drive the car, because he was drunk. So he drove his car. He took his keys off him, and drove his car. Next thing, they swapped cars the day after. So he had his car and he had his car. So that's the story of that. But this guy was absolutely fearless. And he would literally clamber on roofs. He once jumped out the office window. He did some stupid things. And we're talking like ground floor level. We went on a bike ride with him on push bikes, and we're cycling up the road, and he goes, "Oh, do you see that hill up there?" I said, "That one," and he goes, "Hell for leather over this hill," and he's jumping over this hill. By Jove, the stuff he used to do. When he had his motorcycle, there was a bridge that I don't think anyone had done, and he did it. And it's like, my goodness grief. He was a frightening bloke. He was a frightening bloke, but he was a very friendly. I mean, you joke about these people, but and he would tell you, because he'd tell you some of the places he'd worked. And he went to work at this quarry. That was his first job. And, of course, because back then there was no health and safety, so you couldn't just say, "Oh, I'm not doing that, lads. That's it. That's your job gone." Well, he was working on this quarry, and the land was sliding. And he couldn't say, "Oh, boss, the land's sliding." Yeah. So he went, and the land was sliding, and he was very lucky, because there was like an avalanche, and it all crashed on the other side. And he was very lucky. How he got out of that unscathed, no one will ever know. But so he was in the quarry. And the land slid. Well, there was a big avalanche. It was a big slate quarry, and it all toppled. Oh no! And it just like, it all happens. Yeah. And he came out. He got out the quarry. He knew what was happening. With a slate avalanche in a quarry, it's all sliding. There's literally no way out. So how he got out? Well, he did tell me. He goes, he said, "I saw this hole." I just did. I thought, yeah, right. But he had some nasty do's. But yeah, Dirty Harry, and we all got on with him, But he was a real rough guy, he was a very scary guy. But once you got to know him, He was like a big teddy, really. He was, you know, he's probably dead and gone now. But it's strange, though, because there's a guy from the Joiners who I saw in Liverpool. And apparently he said, the guy that owned the Joiners, he said, you wouldn't want to know him now. Yeah. He said his wife left him. He became an alcoholic. Yeah. The boss? The guy who had the Joiners, yeah. Michael Farrington, his name was. He had a lovely wife. But you could see that way that they were going, because they wanted to give me the business and the house and everything, but I couldn't take it on. I'm glad I didn't, because it was a big thing, and it would have gone tits up for me, really. But it's sad how it turned out, because they bought a lovely company in London. And it was the biggest company in London, but he had an affair. It wasn't your normal affair, from how he tells it. He was seeing a woman. She lured him in, from what I was told. And so he slept with her. Oh, gosh. Well, he didn't sleep with her, per se. But the problem was, instead of going in someone else's bed, it was in his bed. Well, in their bed, in the marital, I know what you mean, in the actual, you know what I mean? And so anyway, his wife found out, and she left him, and she didn't just leave him, she took everything from underneath him. Oh my gosh. The company, everything. She took the whole entire company. Yep. It's like Rosemary's House. Oh, I've heard about this. Do you want a bit of drama, everyone? Well, you're going to get it. Well, a mate of mine, we've got the office, in Liverpool, yeah. Well, he's only gone and bought Rosemary a house. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. So I told Rachel today, and she went absolutely bananas. She said, actually, no, I won't spoil it because it's going to be on the Tumblr later on, so I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, everyone knows about that house that Rosemary's got. It's a big house, isn't it? Fairly big. It's a 2 up, 2 down, but it's big enough for her. Hold on, so she had a house she had a perfectly good house. Rosemary did, yeah. You never went to it. She had her mother's flat for a little while. So anyway, Rosemary is not welcome at Rachel's house. Gosh, she's not welcome. She's not welcome at Rachel's. Yeah. Yeah. And you wouldn't be. So she's getting told, on top of all the other stuff. Oh yeah, on top of all that as well. Yeah. So I'm not happy with her. So I'll be telling her, a warning, a verbal warning, yeah. You know? And I'll be telling her if she does any of that in the office, You know, I'm talking about any narcotics in the office, people, and that's it. You're out for good. Well, I saw Rosemary in her car. Oh, yeah, you told me, didn't you? And she pulled in front of me. Oh, you nearly caused a crash. No, I never. You pulled in front of me. And never gave way either. Never gave way. And I'm not someone who does road rage, really. You know, I was in my BMW just cruising along at 30. Yeah, I drive like an old woman now. You know, gone are the days of sticking the foot down. Well, in Southport, really, it's more of a town of driving 20, 30 miles an hour. It's not sticking the foot down type of town, really, even though people do. And unless I'm going up to Maybrow, but even then, because where I'm going, it's only round the corner. So it's literally, and if I'm coming up here and then back to mine, you know, it's not sticking the foot down, you know. It's, and also you hammer your engine if you do it like that. You know, I'm more for comfort these days. I still love my speed, don't get me wrong. But if I'm driving, it has to be for comfort. You know, when you're driving your vehicle, comfort comes first, you know. Unless you're driving the Merc. And you've got my mother in the car. No, I'm very kind. I know what she's like as a passenger. It's your stepdad. Bloody hell. I had him in the car. Well, I don't know where we were going. I think we were coming back from somewhere. Or was I taking him? Where was we going? I think we were going to shops or somewhere. Or for lunch. I think we were going for lunch. I dropped him off in the car. And oh my gosh, nervous passenger. It's not the word. What was it? Oh, you're doing too fast here. Oh, look, Jim. I said to him, look, Jim. I says, I am the driver of this car. I said, and I'm going no faster than anybody else. Oh, but you're putting your foot down to get to that junction. Well, I'm changing gear. So I will rev up to the gear. But I had to remember how I did it with Daphne. It's like, okay, so I'm just like, you know, I wasn't going to hit the brakes because that's what you don't do. So to ease the passenger, you just bring the throttle down. Yeah. You're still going too fast. I'm not. I said, we're slowing down. I didn't have my foot on anywhere near the throttle. The car was actually going at a nice speed. And I was a bit annoyed because I had to bring it down. Well, I had to put it... I had to bring it into down a gear. Where were we? So I was in fourth gear, right? I was coming down to third. Sorry, going up to third. Yeah, going up to third gear. But what I love about the BMW, even though it's an auto, you can actually, there's a setting where you can choose your gears. The car will choose the gears for you. I know, because the thing that people say when you're in an auto, oh, you don't bother with gears. You don't, but in the BMWs, if you put it in a mode, well, I forgot what mode it is, you don't use gears at all, right? But say, for example, say if I'm going to a hill, the car will tell me I'm coming up to a hill. And so then I will then go to a hill and get to a hill, and then I'll then need to tap the screen, and then the car will do it all for me. But it's just like driving a big go-kart, forward and reverse. That's the 4x4, isn't it? Yeah. The vans are manual, but still the van is lovely to drive. But I prefer automatics, you know, they're more comfortable. Again, the problem is the problem is with the BMW, because it's so comfortable, you don't feel how fast you're going. You know, I could be doing 80 miles an hour and then suddenly end up at 90 and think, oh, crumbs, I'm doing 90 here. It's easy done. It's easy done. In the Merc, like Anne's Merc, you don't feel it. And yeah, because in the Mercedes cars, it's all about it pulls, because it's a front end. It's all on the front axle, so it pulls, which is fantastic. It's great. It feels like a Skoda, and you know, well, my Merc, the one I've got there, the TDL, it's a 3.5 litre. Well, no, it's a 2.5. It's a 2 litre. But the one that I'm getting next, that's a 3.5. Bloody hell. Yeah, it's a 3.5 litre. That's what you call a Merc, isn't it? You know, 3.5 litres. It's. I remember I was in Anne's car, and I thought, this is weird. You can hardly feel anything. You know, even when we were moving. And when I was in Tony's, when I was in my PT's Merc, obviously we couldn't stick the foot down, but even still, I couldn't feel that move. Even when I could feel us going over a bump. But the thing is, with the Mercs, is because it's because it's a bigger car. You don't feel it. And it's I won't say it's a bigger engine necessarily. Well, it's like in Rachel's car. I mean, Rachel's car's a small car. And she's got a full AMG engine. Well, it's actually, her engine's not a full AMG because it's diesel, and it's not the Formula One. It's not got the, I don't think it's got a turbocharger on it. I know what you mean. It'll have turbo on it, but it hasn't got, yeah. Anyway, it's weird because it's responsive because it's a sports car. But I remember going in Anne's BMW, which was like, whoa, that pins you to the, you know. Well, the thing with the BMWs is there's a lot of G-force in a BMW, and they've still kept that in even though they're not rear wheel. I'd be very careful what you say about BMWs, because they can still drift. They can still drift. My 4x4 is a drifter. It'll skid in the ice. Well, no. Well, any tyre will skid. You know that. But because it's built like a brick shithouse, I love it and I feel safe in it. Also with 4x4s, they're higher up, and this is weightier. And because I have so much stuff in the back of it, I went through a puddle. Right? I drove in the wet today, but because I've got had some stuff in the back of it, weighing it down, that wasn't going anywhere. That wasn't going anywhere. It was as stern as anything. Yeah, it wasn't going anywhere. If it had skidded really badly, yes, that would have flipped. But because I had total control over the car, I wasn't doing stupid, miles an hour or anything like that. And I just drove and I went straight through a puddle. And I thought, this is brilliant. I can drive through puddles nicely and literally just be comfortable in my own car. It was lovely. I'm not scared of driving in the wet. I've never been scared of driving in the wet because driving in the wet actually adds some fun to your journey if you sort of know what you're preparing yourself for. Do you put like special tyres on, or they're on? They're all on. I have all-weather tyres on my on vehicles that I use a lot. I've got all-weather tyres on. Yeah, because Maureen was asking when I can't remember which vehicle we were in. I think it was the 4x4. She said to me, even if this car was to skid, would you, but I'd be prepared. I'd be very well prepared. Well, if you skid in a 4x4, it's a bad day. Oh, it is. It's a very bad day. Because I know that's happened. I know 4x4s can skid. Well, the older 4x4s were a lot worse for skidding because there wasn't a lot of weight to them. Unless you're a Land Rover Defender. They were built like a bloody tank. The amount of problems I had in that thing and managed to get out of them. Did you skid in it and... Oh. I drove that thing into a ditch. And it's still... How that car... it was totally written off by the end of its life, but... Well, no one got rid of it. I did it up, didn't I? That was a car I did up. I spent a lot of money on it, doing it up. No, my mate's car was a different story. But you got to remember, he drove a car a little worse for wear. Well, you have driven drunk though, Charles. Oh, only 4 pints. Yeah. Yeah, only 4 pints. Do you know what's stupid about that incident? Was the cop that was behind me said I was speeding. And Matt was there, wasn't he? No, I dropped Matt off. It was Russ, who'd lived a few doors up from me at the time, said that I was driving ridiculously fast, but I wasn't. I was actually driving at the normal speed. Yeah. So the cop car said I was doing this and doing that, and I was all over the road. But they didn't do me. They didn't pull me till I got right outside my house. It was just stupid. They should have pulled me a bit way up the road. Because I was a bit annoyed. It wasn't long after me and Daphne had got divorced, and I was at the house and I had a few drinks. I had 4 pints. 4 pints, and the beer wasn't strong. It was just, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Stella. And they breathalyzed me and said I was over the limit. And I went in. They said, "Oh, I'm off duty, you'll have to come in tomorrow." And I went in the next day, right? I went in the next day, and the policeman said, "I'm going to have to charge you." But he said, "I'm going to have to take 6..." He says, you get a 6-month driving ban." For what? I wasn't even driving dangerously. You know, and I got all that way home. All that way home, and a bloody cop car behind me. You know. And the worst one was when I got... No, that wasn't the worst one. There was one that was really bad, but I can't remember it offhand. Yeah. Way up. We've got a cat that wants to come in. You coming in or not? Well, don't cry. Come in. Come in. Come in. You coming in? Are you coming in? Are you coming in? Yeah. What are you crying for? Eh? What are you crying? We've got a cat on the podcast, folks. Aww. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what I was doing wrong to get pulled. But I got me... Oh, sorry. Sorry. Do not get me cuddle now. Do not get me cuddle now.
He's not coming in, I don't think.
He's been in, but... Oops. He's not trapped in the door, is he?
Are you alright, though? What are you doing?
I was checking that no one...
Daddy.
Well, I can't feel if he's there. The door's not closing properly. Ah, that's why. There's a bit of carpet stuck there. That's what you call Bruno's scratched. If you feel underneath the door how much... It's like Bruno's burying all the carpet that he's scratched. Oh, they came in, small cuddle, and then buggered off out. I don't know what all that was about, but there you go. And something has fallen out the wardrobe. But yeah, I don't know what that police officer... See, the thing was, I went to the police station. Yeah. And they said, your 6 months driving ban. But and they only put, was it 4, was it 5 points on my licence? I can't remember. They stamped it. And I remember arguing with them. I said, you put 5 points? They thought, no, I'm not going any further with it. I was about 4 hours on, it was on New Year's Day. I'll never forget it. And I went home and had another 5 pints. Carol said, that's not clever, is it? I said, well, I'm not going to be jumping in a car anytime soon. Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. I was heading home in my car. So the following year for New Year's Eve, I never drove anywhere. I thought, sod it. Didn't you drive Andy somewhere, or? Oh yeah, that New Year's Eve turned sour, didn't it? Very quickly. Yeah. We were both in toxic relationships then. Yeah. You know. I mean, if people think they know what depression's like, you know, and I was going to throw myself in the canal that night. Yeah. I was very close. How did Tony and Russ know? Did they sort of... They'd known for a long time. Yeah. And it, you know... I wasn't going to open the van door. But I wasn't going to have my van door broken down, so I opened the door. And I was annoyed because I was quite ill. I wasn't eating any vegetables. I was drinking lots of wine. What's the eating? Well, if you eat a lot of crap and you drink a lot of piss, then your body's just going to say, oh, no, but I think your mind as well. I don't think it's good for your mind, you know. You sound like my sisters, Charles. Well, it's true, you know, if your body, I mean, your body and your mind, they're connected. So if you're drinking 4 or 5 bottles of wine, yeah, and you're not eating proper. I mean, I was eating. It wasn't chippy teas all the time. It was more ready meals. They don't have a lot of vegetables in. I mean, I could cook pretty well. You know, I used to have that stove, but you had to have it. You had to sort of keep it going. It ran off the car battery. So you had to sort of... It was good for slow cooking meals. And yeah, because he said, oh, when I drive home, I've got this stew done. Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm tempted to do it. But it's not. Well, I have a camping stove, but I have a camping stove and I have another stove, and they basically, one of them plugs into the. You put it on the dashboard, and then you put it on, and it just heats up. I used to use that in the minivan, but the problem was it steamed up like buggery if you're not careful. So, I used to cook like soups and stuff. It's not great for cooking pies and stuff like that. You know. But, you know. You having a chippy tea tonight, Charles, or? Yeah, I'm going to have a chippy tea when I go back. I'm having it late tonight. Because I've worked till about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Just non-stop. I've been here, then I went to the garage. And actually, the garage is pretty busy today because I managed to get the brakes from somewhere to fit on this tattoo. This guy that does a mobile tattoo van. I did that, and then there was another guy that had a motorbike, got that fixed. The guy that had the chippy put a brand new gearbox on his car. We're laughing. So it's like 3 people I've done today. That was in my lunch hour. Blummin' heck. But, you know. Well, today was a bit quiet on the builder's yard, so it's just been one of those days where... What do you think to the new guy, Trent, who started with you today? Or? Yeah, he was good. But the thing with Trent is he's so fast. You know, he knows his stuff, and it's like, okay, there's nothing I can show you, really. Just that, you know. Nothing I can show you. So it sort of becomes, you know. Right, well, I'm going to finish the podcast here. Hope people have enjoyed this. Not too much. Shout outs I've left here, which there aren't any this week. But I guess if you want a shout out, just leave it in the comments and we'll do it on the next one. Bye for now.